City of Northglenn, Channel 8, keeping you informed of events in your community.
Good evening and welcome to our April 15th City Council study session. Joanna, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Dodge?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Escabel?
Here.
Councilmember Sowers? Councilmember Leidy will be absent. Councilmember Downey?
Here.
Councilmember Brown?
Here.
Councilmember Whitman?
Here.
Councilmember Duran-Mullica will be absent. And Councilmember Welker?
Here. Thank you. All right, we have 3 items tonight. You want to introduce Joe?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Dodge. This evening we have Joe Mattoon with us. Joe's been working most recently with a council subcommittee on updating the council appointee evaluation process timeline as well as the actual appraisal tools, which I believe are in your packet. And so with that, I think we're nearing the end of Joe's work with the city, and I'll turn it over to her to provide you with an update and then next steps.
Great. All right, and I know a couple of you have not been in on all the detail. Luckily, you missed out on the sausage making part of the process. So, although none of the rest of them looked too wounded by the process. So.
We survived with a smile on our face.
It was pretty easy.
What I want to do,
I know I kind of threw a lot of stuff in the packet for you, so what I'd like to do is go through a PowerPoint that explains the process. Subcommittees all here can also help answer questions, and this is our proposal to you all this evening in moving forward with this important project. So, just a really quick reminder on this. Way back last year, we talked from a full council over kind of very high level, what were the things that you would like to see in a new process, what things were not working from that standpoint. With that information, I did sort of a first draft on that and then met with the subcommittee 2 times to go through that. We made revisions as we went through on that. Then also, after we were done with draft 2, the subcommittee agreed that it would be helpful for the folks that are going to be impacted by this to get feedback from them. They spent too many times in their career making new ideas and not checking it out with the people that actually have to live with it. So their feedback has also been included in the information provided. And hopefully today we'll be able to move forward with completion for you. But certainly if there are changes that still need to be made, those can be done. All right. You'll recall this in our second meeting as a full council. I sort of summarized what I had heard from you during the first meeting as what your wish list was for the process. Shared this with you in December and at least got a lot of nods on the head saying that this was the information that was important. And so this was what we as a subcommittee also kind of used as the criteria as we went through the development process to make sure we were meeting the full council's expectations on that. In the past, you've had a process that has been pretty much consistent for all 4 employees, your municipal judge, your city attorney, your city clerk, and your city manager. Based on some initial discussion with the full council, knowing that 2 of those positions are contractors and are contracted employees, we came back with a recommendation that changes up kind of a more simpler system for those positions and then a full system for the 2. So I just wanted to give you a really high-level overview of the distinctions and then we'll walk through the specifics. So what you'll see as we go through this is for the clerk and the city manager, who are your appointed employees, work for you full-time. It's very more of a robust process, a different timing for when we would start with them in June of each year. There's tools that include goals, performance competencies, feedback from stakeholders, that are specific to the competencies, and a couple of informal check-ins during the year, because certainly part of the feedback was we talk one time a year and that's not really conversational or an ongoing. So you'll see a more simplified process for the 2 contracted employees starting in January. Much more simple. You'll see this in detail, more completed, just a questionnaire that they complete for your information. There's still a way to get feedback from stakeholders since you don't spend time with them on a regular, everyday type of basis, and it would just be a one-time-of-year informal conversation. So the next few slides that we'll be going through are literally just for the city clerk and the city manager. I'll review the other process after we get through these. So first pieces to know, goal setting. That was something came out, was on a big wish list from the conversations back in November, December, something that certainly heard was missing from the current process. So you'll see there's actually 3 different kinds of goals that are included in the proposal. So the first is really strategic goals, that each year there would be a couple very specific goals chosen that those employees become responsible for helping achieve city council's goals. So this is a way to tie back to those. But they need to not be too big a picture. They do still need to be in the vernacular SMART goals. So specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bounded. And so how to pull from your annual goals into that. Also was an impact of why we started the timing when we did, because we know you do your annual goal setting in late spring, so that's why the start of the evaluation cycle would be after that, so you could have those kind of goal conversations. There's goals related to competencies, which I will explain what a competency is later. That's the work that those folks do now. And then there's also developmental goals, which is how do you want to help grow? Your employees' professional development was one of the things that I heard about, so this is kind of future for their future and growing in their professions on that. The other idea with these goals is that they are developed collaboratively, not just given by council, not just created by the employee, but it's an interactive process. And on the tool itself, there's a place to track both the goal and the progress on that. And the reality is goals may change. They may change throughout the year. So the nice thing about having a couple check-ins each year is, or during the year, also gives opportunities to update and change those. And please, if there's questions along the way, stop me, because otherwise I'm just going to keep running. Next piece you'll see in the tool is there's something called performance competencies. This is really tracking how they do the work. And you'll see without each employee, both the clerk and the city manager have 3 competencies, but under each of those competencies are specific behaviors that give you kind of the definition of what that competency is. There is overlap. 2 of the competencies for the positions are the same, but then each has a unique one that represents the fact that they do different work and they have different needs. So they were written specific for those positions on that. And these competencies give you an opportunity to have the employee give you some feedback on how they're doing. This is also related then to the tool that we created to get stakeholder feedback on these competencies, and will be a place for you also to give feedback to each of those employees. There's a self-evaluation piece in this. The self-evaluation, sometimes I've seen councils set up a self-evaluation document that has nothing to do with what you're actually judging your person on or evaluating your person on. And so this one, we just moved it right into the form so that they're speaking on the very topics that you will also be looking at. So they'll have a place for them to speak to the goals, to these competencies, but then also just giving a couple reflective questions that are an opportunity for them to really help kind of winnow it down to those top accomplishments, and to give you feedback on how council can best support the employee in increasing both their performance ability and their job satisfaction. So this would be looked at one time during the year, during the big part of the process, but certainly could be discussed informally throughout the year. There was lots of discussion in council, and always a topic of interest to everybody is how to do a rating system. There's no perfect number of ratings In my experience, the worst I've ever seen was somebody that had 11 rating scale. There was no distinction between, what's the difference between a 7 and an 8? It was crazy, and a numerical one. Something I heard very specific here, not to do numbers, which I'm not a fan of anyways. So we did these rating systems for your thing. A 4 system does seem to be a pretty usable system. You'll see there's always some confusion in organizations with the needs improvement, the lowest rating there, because I think it can serve 2 things. Sometimes it's a person who's just not meeting expectations and needs to hear the tough thing, but it's also the rating that can be used for someone that's new to a position and just developing and on a learning curve, and it would be assumed that they're not at their full mastery at this point in time. So you'll see those systems on there. And the idea here with the rating system is when it comes to the one time a year that you'll actually do the ratings, the idea will be that council will initially all independently do ratings, but rather than your employees receiving all the numbers, what we'll then suggest is that council comes together and negotiates what's council's rating for each of these as a group. And you'll see later that that's done in an executive session setting on that. Again, stop me if there's any questions.
That last slide.
Oh, did I mess up on the slide?
Yeah, the definition of the needs improvement. It looks like it's achieves expectations explanation.
Oh, thank you. Yes, you are correct. So let me thank you for that catch. Somebody needs to fire the woman that put her slides together. Oh, that would be me.
Yeah,
I put them together. Let me just quickly do the language that all the appointees would be really happy if they only had ones that said they did great, right? Yes. So it is, performance in this area is emerging or inconsistent and needs development. Performance feedback and efforts to reinforce competency may provide the tools to achieve success, but demonstration of heightened performance is necessary to achieve proficiency and role. So my mistake on that. Yeah. Okay. All right, and feedback. Also important was the discussion around, because you are council members, but you aren't here all the time and working with your employees, needing feedback from stakeholders. So this would be a once-a-year process, as we recommend. We'd start that out on that. We worked with the appointees and the subcommittee and said this was our recommended list of stakeholders for each of those positions. And there was a lot of discussion, if you'll recall, when we talked as a full council about, do you do it anonymously or do you do it kind of in a fully transparent way? So it's kind of a hybrid is what we recommend on this, where we would give them aggregated, they'll get to see the distribution of the ratings, but all the comments would be verbatim. So they wouldn't necessarily have a name attached to them, but because they're verbatim, people will probably be pretty clear about what they are. It was kind of the way we felt we could get the most people to participate, because the value to you is really what comes in the comment information, but not have it as a place where people can just come in and kind of do a hit and run type of approach on that. So, and one of the questions that the subcommittee had for you, because we hadn't had chance to finalize this, is whether or not we were going to require stakeholders to comment, knowing that the actual ratings themselves will probably be limited in their information to you. What will be more helpful to you is the comments. So if we could take a moment to bring that to the group and find out your thoughts on that.
Anyone have thoughts on that one?
We already gave our thoughts. It's your turn.
I already gave mine. I was there too.
Okay, she already gave her thoughts. It's your turn.
No, I guess it's fine.
Comments are helpful. I mean, sometimes just seeing the score doesn't help us, and it doesn't give us that there's necessarily issues or positive things either. So I think comments can be an issue for not able for us to see.
Yeah, and you know, I think the thinking here is that we'll just do this in kind of a Survey Monkey type of thing, which has that ability to force the comments in there. If we find that people are not responding at all because they have to do the comments, then it can always be decided later. But if you'd like, we can go in. What I'm interpreting is that we can start with forced comments at this point.
Yeah.
Forced sounds wrong, but you know what I mean.
Required, yeah.
Yes, required. Thank you. That's the right word.
Along with Bruce's point, I think they're really helpful as long as they're constructive and we're able to provide some solutions as well. Like sometimes we've received comments in the past that are highly negative, that I think it's helpful for us to make sure that they're constructive or solution-based. So I don't know how we would ask that or pose that with maybe the comment section, like maybe a reasoning behind the comment. I don't really know how you word that.
We can work on some directions on that. I've also found that when people know that even if their name isn't attached to the comment, but it's going to be shared verbatim, people think a little more about how they're going to present their comment than when they do, thinking it'll only be seen by council.
Yeah, Joe, you may have already said this. Are these going to be anonymous comments or will they be identified?
So what we're recommending is kind of that hybrid. So they won't have a name next to the comment, but you will get them verbatim, and based on the nature of the positions that you're talking to, my experience is it'll be pretty easy for you to determine, and it'll also make them think, okay, council's going to know what I'm talking about since it was verbatim. And also those two appointees will actually get the comments too. So they will be seen not just by council.
So they'll get the comments, but they'll be anonymous.
They'll be anonymous. At that point, it'll be a sheet that'll have all the comments listed and the distribution of the ratings. So they would have that information as information that they also can consider as they're doing their self-evaluation, is it gives them an opportunity to reflect on that before that goes to you.
So they will get that before they do that?
Yep. So it'll be step one will be the stakeholders. Then that information will come to you and to the appointees. The appointees will do a self-evaluation, and then you'll add your comments as the third step in that process. Yeah.
So that process is really the same way that it's been before. I mean, we've always gotten comments and they've been anonymous, but we can kind of read
Yeah.
I think that's still the same thing, but I like the way that the scale is different. It's not scoring 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Good. The additional piece was, Joanna brought up a really good point, which is you see her in one realm, and even the stakeholders, the other department heads realm, but she has a lot of customers that she works with in a different way, and her office works with. So her recommendation that the committee agreed to would be the idea of doing an annual customer service survey, sort of something that can be available to people as they come to the window, and then once a year reporting that out so you have additional data to take into consideration. And so the question that came out of the subcommittee is it helpful to you to get that information annually or biannually? You know, of course, that gives her work to do to have to aggregate the things, but any feedback? We didn't have a chance, because that came in after our last subcommittee conversation, to finalize the decision on that piece of it.
I kind of like it annually.
Can we do it to where the surveys are going out all year round,
That's
but
the
it's
idea.
tabulated
And then it's aggregated
perfect.
as part of that formal review piece. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's a great idea to do a survey.
Yeah. She gets all the credit for that one.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then, I'm sorry, one more
Yep.
time, one more thing. The facilitator will put together the information on the survey for us too?
Yes.
Perfect.
So the facilitator is the one that will be your coordinator of all the information that you're receiving from your stakeholders, from your appointees, and then also works with council to collate all the information from all of you onto one format. Okay. Speaking of which, so the idea would be that you would hire an external facilitator in each year, and that they would be there to manage both your processes with your appointed employees and with your contracted. So they'd sort of work for you for the year and manage those two processes. So for the two appointed positions, their evaluation cycle would start in June. And then there would be those informal discussions with them in September and January on that. And then sort of the prep period for that more formal process would be in the April timeframe. So prior to meeting, oh, okay, I'm sorry, this is where I do it. So I already mentioned stakeholder feedback, self-evaluation. Each council member fills out the form themselves. The external person's job is to then consolidate all of that data onto one document. Then you meet with the facilitator in an executive session to come to that agreement for what the group's rating is. And having been part of that in another municipality, I can say even really distinctly different opinions seem to come together. So I've seen it actually work in real life from that. And then the other thing that would happen in that meeting is rather than really trying to sit down and go through the entire line-by-line evaluation with your appointees, to get some really key talking points that are going to be important for you as a council to express, because they're going to be able to read your comments on the thing. And then also give you that opportunity to at least have some initial conversation about what you want to do with compensation. Then council has a meeting with each employee individually to actually then have the conversation where you go through those speaking points and have that discussion in this formal part of the process. And then with this piece, just kind of gives a role overview for you. So the facilitator's job, they really are there to oversee, to coordinate the process, to make sure you're getting all the information, making sure you all are filling out your forms, and is there to take notes for you during that meeting to decide what your speaking points are on that. The Human Resources Department, as they've done in the past, it's their job to provide you comparative salary and benefits data so that you have that for your compensation discussion. And so your jobs during the year is to contract with your external facilitator, complete the evaluation form, and then it isn't proposed at this point that the facilitator is part of your informal check-ins, because those are really meant to be things, so it'd just be making sure that those happened on the 2 time frames of the year. All right.
Have we chosen an external person yet?
We have not.
And I have names for you, of folks that do that. Before I go into the judge and the attorney, is there any other questions on what we're proposing for city clerk and city manager? Okay. All right. More simplified system because of the nature of the relationship with that. Still, subcommittee pointed out, really needs stakeholder feedback just because you have a little, especially with the judge, less interaction with that. Spoke with them, got recommendations for who those stakeholders would be. The distinction here, though, is rather than it being, because there's not competencies, because it's not a formal evaluation tool, we developed questions that are very specific to the roles, got feedback from both your still current municipal judge, or has she?
She's gone.
She's gone. All right. Your recently former city or municipal judge, and from Corey to make sure that the questions would be helpful to you on that. And again, your facilitator will give you the aggregated results, as will the contract employee. Unlike with clerk and city manager, you will not be filling out any kind of evaluation form. You'll have the information from your stakeholders, and then each of those 2 employees will also fill out questionnaires that will hopefully give you the information that you need, that when you do sit down and have that informal discussion with them, we'll be able to give you the data and the information that would be helpful to you to just have a conversation to verify what changes you need, any contract changes, anything. And so you would have a executive session with each of them in October, knowing that your contract years begin in January. So now, how do we get you there? This is the challenge. You'll note in my proposal, even in my council packet, I said it's not possible to do the dates that we had originally thought we could work with, so I'm giving you a new suggestion here. Subcommittee has not seen these dates on that. It would be moving towards getting you an external facilitator soon, asking HR to move forward on gathering the compensation and benefits data, making sure that's coming from the same comparison market that the employee base is based on that. And then doing kind of a condensed version, but using the new process tools. Now, the one question that came up is it fair for these two positions to be rated against things that this is new information that they're being rated against? But we took a look at the tools, and there's enough overlap in topics that we thought this new tool probably is still a good fit, but it simply would be that we wouldn't ding someone if it's something new that they've never been told that they are expected to be facilitated against, but still felt like this tool was a better representative of what they do than the tool you had been using previously. Excuse me. On that. So you'd still get the self-evaluation in this time frame. So unless we were going to move this into later in the summer, probably not enough time to throw the stakeholder feedback in. So that's why that's recommended, is because we need to get you a transition, because the new evaluation year really does start in June, and you'll see there's already going to be overlap even with my truncated time frame here. So the new evaluation cycle would be starting, but you would still be doing these finishing up pieces where you would be meeting with them during this time. And it's important not just to cover last year's evaluation or a year and a half that's been for that, but this is also the meeting that would be the setup for really setting what are the goals going to be for the next evaluation cycle. So that's an important piece of this change, any compensation changes on that. And then also would be, you're not going to have data yet because it would be just the start of the survey season for the city clerk. So going back to your wish list, I think at least we believe that we had hit the marks that you had asked for. So with the collaborative, professional, and respectful, by using that external facilitator, you're getting lots of feedback. So from yourself, from appointees, from stakeholders, and also the informal check-ins pieces on that. There are more goals in this one, and developmental goals, which really moves towards their growth and development. Ways for you to support staff's development and feedback. So the goals, the competencies, and even specific questions for council on how to best support your employees moving forward, and the two appointees. Goal focused within the context of the work plan, so we have those strategic goals that are tied specific to City Council's goals on that. Quality feedback, we believe that this will give lots of information between the self-evaluation and the stakeholder goals, or stakeholder surveys and your information. The 2 extra informal discussions of the year, so this can be conversational and not just a one-time per year. And making it manageable. So everything in this can be easily updated as things change. So the annual council goals change, but also even the competencies, it would not be a challenge to write new ones moving forward if the jobs for some reason were to change distinctly. All right, so I know that was a fire hose approach, but I know you have a busy night. Thoughts from council about if this is the process and the tool, or if there need to be changes?
Marcy? Just a quick question. So sure. I think the format and everything is great. The question I have is, if we had a situation in which we needed to document, maybe it wasn't the most positive review when we were setting, wouldn't necessarily call them goals, but expectations of things that had to be accomplished, let's say like within 6 months. I don't really see that necessarily fits into the goals and that are kind of outlined here. Is that like a supplemental document that you would have that would outline like an action plan that's an expectation from?
Yeah,
because we haven't had that in the past. That's
right.
One of those that I felt like we've lacked.
Yeah. Most organizations, what they would do with that is, you're right, it would be a different document outside of it. It'd be more of a performance improvement plan, and we can certainly get you a template for that. In fact, maybe Heather, do you already have a performance improvement plan format that you used within the city?
Northglenn, but certainly
Okay.
downtown.
Yeah, so we can get that, because it is usually its own process to do that piece of that. There's certainly ways that you would, in your discussion, have it as impacting ratings. There may be goals specific, but in my experience, it's best when it's laser focused on a performance improvement plan. But we can get you a format for that.
Probably just something that would be helpful if I
Yep.
don't think we've had it in the past and we've struggled.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
As long as Corey can still be, glowing and outstanding in his evaluation, I'm sure everything's perfect.
Joe, I just want to thank you because you've been really awesome to work with. I know the subcommittee had a really easygoing time with you. You're very professional. Just really thank you for your guidance, and I look forward to using this. I'm sure we all look forward to using our new eval system. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you all. I will work with staff and getting everything transitioned over for you. And I appreciate your time both tonight and
Thank
to the
you.
subcommittee. They worked hard. They are the ones that get the extra credit.
Thank you. Thank you for the guidance.
Can I ask you one question? So what goes from here? What happens now? You will determine the facilitator? Is that how that will work? I mean, I know we don't need to be involved in that process.
Well, actually, I was gonna ask council if you would like me to work with Joe, get options of facilitators, and we can go about this one of two ways. I can get resumes, see who's interested in working with us, and then provide either the appraisal committee with that information, and the appraisal committee can make that selection. I don't necessarily believe I should be selecting the facilitator.
Okay. Well, how about the committee? Is that okay?
Council wants us to. Well, the appraisal committee has me confused because you just
So
need
not
to
the
evaluate.
You mean all of us, we're all the evaluation committee
Yeah, so
now,
we're moving, oh, yes, thank you for clarifying.
Okay, I just thought, is there a committee I don't know
I
about?
slipped into the old system.
Okay. Yeah, I think
So I'll
we
bring
would all
that forward.
probably like to.
Have input,
Yeah.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Thank you, Joe.
Awesome,
Have a
Joe.
good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything.
Next, we have Excel Partners in Energy. Good evening, Becky.
Hi. Thank you, Mary Dodge Council. Becky Smith here with the Planning Department to provide some background in the Excel Partners in Energy program. In January, to further the city's sustainability targets, city staff applied to be part of the Excel Partners in Energy program and learned that we were accepted into their program. So we will be coming forward next week at the regular meeting with the MOU, but wanted to take tonight just to give you guys a brief background on what the program entails. They gave me a brief presentation that I can go over with you guys. So I'll just get started. So the Partners in Energy program is really a 2-year collaborative with Excel Energy to develop and implement energy plan goals. Excel provides tools and resources to enable the community to create a community-driven energy plan. Basically, they've been doing this in Minnesota and Colorado, and it's a free service to the community. And they also help us with assistance in implementing. So basically, they will spend 6 months developing a plan with community stakeholders, and then spend the next 18 months working towards implementation. So the beauty of this program with them is that it's really driven by us. So we set the goals and the targets with what we want to do for our energy conservation. This is just a list of the partners, and this would include us as well. So there's 20 communities in Colorado that are currently participating in the program. Since they've been offering this program, Excel has seen 7 million kilowatts of energy saved and 143,000 therms of energy. And so that's with these communities, and then I also believe their communities in Minnesota. Their goal in this program is just to better understand the energy needs of the communities, align their services with the communities that they work with, and really become a partner with them. And then also strengthen the relationship with the communities and support our individual goals with regards to energy. Northglenn's objectives in this program, we passed our sustainability plan last September, and we outlined several goals with regards to energy conservation. So we would like to look to Excel to help us as an energy expert in helping us create strategies that are feasible for our community and really understand what that means. Basically, they can also help us set up systems to track our energy conservation so that we're sure that we're actually meeting our targets and goals. And we can leverage some of their resources to help us with marketing, as well as communication to the community and education and resources like that. So some of the benefits in participating, they've listed some here. Basically, they will help us gather the data and identify some of the areas of highest impact that we could pursue with regards to energy consumption. They'll provide us historical trends that can inform some of our decisions, integrate existing community efforts, and really provide that continued support through our implementation phase, as well as communicate different successes to the community. The resources they provide us for planning include facilitation and guidance. They've contracted with a group called Brindle Group, and so they'll be the ones really leading the facilitation as well as the project management as we work through the planning phase, and then also checking in with us during implementation. They'll also work with us to crunch the data, so we've already started collecting a lot of data and getting that over to them so that they can set a really strong baseline for us. And then they really take the lead in managing the project. So staff is just really more helping coordinate and participate as a stakeholder in this process. Let's see. Some of the resources they will provide for implementation include marketing and communications, program expertise, data tracking and measurement, as well as project management. And then they've provided just a proposed process outline. And in the memo, I mentioned that we are looking to hold, I believe, 4 workshops throughout the planning process, so over the next 6 months. And we are asking if anyone on council would be interested in participating. We're working to build a strong stakeholder committee that's of staff members that impact or have decisions within the city operations that might affect energy of what the city uses, but then also community partners, including Adams 12, Adams County, the Chamber. We're reaching out to larger business, smaller business in the community because we really want that representation. We also have a resident that's on our sustainability committee that will be participating as well. So this is the general outline. We're aiming to hold the first workshop May 1st, and then we would kind of iron out the other dates to come, and we're looking to hold those first thing in the morning to be cognizant of people's schedules, especially with our businesses in the community. They usually have to kind of wrap up and get to work. So,
What time do you consider first thing in the morning?
So we'll be aiming for 8 to 11, and we decided to do 4 3-hour workshops instead of 6 2-hour workshops, just because we thought that might keep more consistency and keep people more engaged than if we try to do too many workshops. So, but yeah.
And you plan on having your first one in 2 weeks?
Yes, if we keep moving forward, that's right. So,
Anyone have questions for Becky? Anyone interested in the position? I'm sorry, you have a question?
Yes to both.
Yes to both.
No, I just wanted to say thanks for bringing this forward. I think it's really exciting, and I think about us being a member of Colorado Communities for Climate Action and then kind of extending that work into helping residents and businesses in our community understand what it means to decrease their energy uses. I think those things go hand in hand, and so thank you for bringing this forward. I think, again, it's really excited, and I would love to participate.
great. I can send you the information. So.
Can you give us an example?
Mm-hmm. So each community kind of picks and chooses their own strategies. So ours will definitely be built around what we decide is best for our community. But some of the examples of what other communities have rolled out is micro grants. And so in that, Excel would help us in providing possible grant resources or applying for the grants. And then the grant program would be community administered. They also have examples of where they do education. And so we could do more of an initiative. Maybe the stakeholder committee thinks that education is where we have a gap. And so we could do something where we invite residents to come and learn more about energy. And then Excel might provide us with expertise at that meeting, and then we would be in charge of facilitating it. So, I mean, it runs a gamut of all different things we could do. They might come to us with some suggestions on how we could improve our municipal energy usage, and some of it might seem feasible, and some of it we might think is too much of a capital investment up front and not really worth it in the long run. So those are all things we'll have to figure out through this process.
You have everything you need?
I think so. We'll just be back in a week with the MOU.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for volunteering. And now we have a joint meeting with City Council and the NERA Board on our Q4 2018 and Q1 2019 NERA reports.
Don't have quite all of our folks here, but until they get here, why doesn't everybody come up and we're going to just take some cheers around here, if that's all right. Cheers, Chris, Pat. This meeting went a lot quicker than we had anticipated, so that's a good thing. Jason, let me help you. I wasn't trying to just
it wasn't even loud.
How did you do that? It was like freaking magic. How did you do it?
We told you around 7.
Wow.
We'll do the magic fest, I'll show you. I'm just kidding. So we're right there for detail. I'm sure Rosie and some of the others will pop in.
I'm not used to being so far away from me.
We can scooch in or your members show up too. That's okay.
We've got some more chairs.
Okay.
You're that? Okay. Well, good evening, Mayor, City Council, Debbie Tuttle, Economic Development Manager, and also the Northglenn Urban Renewal Authority Executive Director. As you know, each quarter we come and have a joint meeting with the Council and NERA just to talk about what we've been doing for the last quarter, as well as what our goals are. We've kind of went over all of the goals that we'd had from the retreat. I did include them again, just for conversation purposes for tonight. So before I get started, I'd like to get up and do a happy dance, but I won't do that because it's unprofessional. Has everybody checked their emails?
Not today. What's going on?
I don't think it's unprofessional.
I don't think
Yeah, I do, because I'm with you. I'm with you.
So Harkins Theaters announced today the new luxury megaplex in Denver Northglenn's Marketplace. So it is official. I have got press releases. This just happened right before 5 o'clock. So we will be doing a joint press release tomorrow from the city of Northglenn. But great news. As you know, this will definitely be the catalyst to move the revitalization of the marketplace forward. Bed Bath & Beyond, Rosie, please come in. Bed Bath & Beyond has already submitted some of their plans. They're in the process right now of working with our folks. They hope, they had said June. I'm going to say that's way too early, just because of where they are. So what they will be doing is going in, doing renovations in the inside, as well as exterior improvements and facade improvements and new signage. So the goal, of course, is to get Bed Bath & Beyond moved to the Borders building, so that we can start the construction on the movie theater. So we are truly pleased. We've been working, NERA, I know we've met with the Harkins folks probably, Rosie, what do you think, 3.5 years ago? 4 years ago? Maybe 4 years ago.
That's a long time.
Yeah, and they are a family-owned and operated business. They have over 500 screens and they're 85 years old. So it's a great fit, we believe, for the city of Northglenn. You know, there's a lot of other big players out there and they really were vying for it as well, but I think you can get too big mostly for a community our size, and you can get the 24 screens, and that's good. But I think this one will be perfect at a 12 screen, and it will have the restaurants and the luxury seats and all the other wonderful things, and their lounging chairs. If you've been to movie theaters lately, that's the new thing. So that's what I want to do. Usually I take my grandkids. I don't quite get into the movie the same way they do, and when I'm lounging back, I really want to go to sleep. So congratulations to everybody. Thank you all for your patience. It's taken a very long time to get here, and a special thank you to NERA because they provided a very large incentive to get this project done. So kudos to NERA for this.
Thanks, NERA. Virtual high five.
Debbie.
Yes.
Over the weekend, Bed Bath & Beyond announced that they would be closing locations. Is ours considered a safe location?
Ours is considered a safe location. They've already signed the lease. Okay. It's already a done deal. Like I said, they're already into our construction, our safe build. They've already had meetings with our safe build and building department. And also, they've already been talking to all of the internal, the fire department, and all of that kind of stuff. So they signed the lease, so it is final. So that one is not in jeopardy.
Okay, cool. And which building are they taking?
They're taking the Borders building. Okay. So the one that is, will still be empty is a Sports Authority building, but I know they are working on getting a tenant for that as well as tenanting. Now this will be truly, when I say it's a catalyst, now we can start marketing the center. People didn't believe it was going to happen. It happened. Thank you. And it just took a lot longer than we anticipated. So most people, the tenants that they were working with, did not want to sign a lease until they knew that this was actually going to occur. I will be meeting at ICSC coming up in the end of May with a lot of different retailers that will be looking to potentially locate here. I will be working with HCP as well as with the broker, that Sullivan Hays, the broker who does that. They set up a lot of the meetings of people that they're trying to attract there. So it's really a great partnership when I go out there.
So exciting. I wish I knew this news this past weekend because I went in a couple of the businesses and they asked this question and I didn't have anything good to tell them, and now I have to go back and give them this update.
We will make sure that all the tenants over there get this.
Yeah, they're going to be so excited.
That's not a problem.
It's great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Debbie, at what point will they give us an exterior design?
Well, they don't plan to open until 2020.
Right,
as you know, we did do an addendum to the HCP incentive agreement. So because this was taking longer than they anticipated, and the build out is going to take a very long time. These are very sophisticated theaters. I don't know for sure, but I would say it's going to be a little while. So, but I will find out as soon as we can. So we want to be on top of this as quickly as possible to make sure it's a streamlined and successful project and there's no hiccups. So, any other questions about that?
Great news. Thank you.
Absolutely. So you can make it official, and tomorrow we'll be doing some major social media push-outs, getting it on our website, and doing a press release on behalf of the city of Northglenn, and getting some quotes and so forth to personalize it. So
excited. Yeah.
So for all the folks here that didn't know, the original mall had a theater. I mean, that's where I frequented every Saturday. So it's nice to have that back.
Well, the first iteration was a theater in the Bed Bath.
In the existing.
That's why the ceilings are so high.
That's right. In the existing.
Oh, really?
Yep. So they are using the existing space. Right. So, you know, Old Navy, Justice, Bed Bath & Beyond. That
kind of ironic.
Really?
Full circle.
Yeah, it is full circle. Good point. So with that, we'll move on. I think this will be pretty quick because we've gone over most of this, but did want to tell you an annual report is coming. We're going to start working on that with staff next week, and we'll have an annual report to submit to you guys probably by next month. But just for highlights, last year was really successful for NERA. Of course, the Huron Center, $13.5 million redevelopment project. Also the courts, $4.8 million new sports complex under construction right now. We provided 16 business grants and incentives, totaling $1.7 million. That's in addition to all the ones that are already in place. And these grants and incentives leverage $12.4 million in public-private partnerships. So they actually invested that much on the entire project. We only invested the 1.7. So we did leverage a lot of money with our grants and our incentives. And since 2005, NORA has provided over 129 business grants and incentives that are approximately $17.3 million. And the chart below in your report shows that we've reinvested $41 million back into our community through the Northglenn Urban Renewal since 2005, and we were established in 1995. So for the Northglenn Mall to be redeveloped, as we know. So NORA's done a great job. They continue to do a great job reinvesting the money into our own community to eliminate blight. Yes.
Ask you, I personally need a refresher on the grants. So the utility versus the business improvement. Sure. Can you explain the difference, and then what is the maximum that a business is allowed to get from those
Absolutely.
grants?
So the big grant, as we call it, which is a business improvement grant, is for anything exterior improvements. Excuse me. That can be seen from the public right away. So parking lots, landscaping, signage, drive-through windows we've used it for. Again, you can see from the public right-of-way. So anything, painting, since Eddie's used it for painting their outside, so anything that can be seen from the exterior from the public right-of-way. The BUA grant, which is a business utility assistance grant, that's used for, and I'm going to go back to the amount here in just a minute, that's used for utility upgrades. Most of the time it's used for grease interceptors for restaurants, which can be very expensive, but they can be used for new water line extensions, for sewer line extensions. Sometimes, for instance, over the Metro North building, right here at 120th and Grant, they're attracting new medical users in there, very high intensive in capital, and a lot of times they have to upgrade their utility, from maybe, they wouldn't have been at a 110, but a 220, but they actually have to have higher volume for their voltage. So we can go in and do that as well, or special water lines connecting from one part of the building to another part of the building. So, but the majority of it is the grease interceptors. That is, but the courts used it, for their utility lines and their water tap and all of that. All of them, we did change both of them. The BUAG, the utility grant, was at $10,000 match. We changed that this year because it was being used so much to $12,500. So they're both at a maximum of $12,500. We do give them an additional 10% if they use a Northglenn contractor. So they would get 60%. So it's a 50-50 match, dollar for dollar, up to the $12,500, unless they use a Northglenn contractor. And then they would get 60%. Okay. I apologize. I've had a cold, as we know. I think everybody has. 2019 NERA goals, we went over those. We're all pretty much on track. Going forward, again, we're having a lot of the city staff coming to our board meetings and actually giving presentations, not every month, but a lot of them for all the projects going on. That's been really helpful, I believe, for our NERA commissioners to learn what is going on in the city and how NERA might be involved. Our grants programs, of course, we're still working on that. Marketplace Phase 1, Yahoo! We're about to embark into that even further. And that does also include, just for your information, because the incentive wasn't just for the movie theater, it was for facade improvements, it was for parking lot improvements, it was for lighting improvements and landscaping improvements and signage improvements. So it's much more than just that, and of course the relocation of Bed Bath & Beyond. The things that we're doing underway, Civic Center P3, master plan and outreach to the developers. We're working on that as we speak. And that's a joint effort between economic development and the NERA staff. Evaluated 112 properties, as well as Washington Street, which was brought up at our last meeting. I've added that in here. That is under evaluation. I'll be honest, I haven't moved forward on that yet, but we will be looking at that more. We always look at opportunities as we're going through, like new ownership on Washington Street or 112, what new opportunities might be coming up, but we haven't developed a formal plan on that. And then identify redevelopment opportunities within the urban renewal areas. And again, we're doing that all the time. Below that are all the resolutions that we did, and again, I would like to back up and say we did not do a Q4 report. There was so many things going on in the city. We decided to combine this one, and of course we had our planning meeting that we could come to you for, but it wasn't an actual joint session meeting for that. So we've got Q4 in here as well as Q1, all of the resolutions and grants that were passed. Does anybody have any questions on those? Is there anything that City Council would like to share with the NERA board that, and vice versa, NERA with Council?
You've been very busy. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Can I ask a question about the marketplace?
Is Joanne staying where they are?
Yes, they are. They're staying. If we had gone to the 16-plex, we would have had to relocate Joanne's. And we did have another location for them, if that was the case.
So is the theater going to take Bed Bath & Beyond and Old Navy?
And Justice.
Where's Justice?
It was right in between Old Navy.
Oh, okay. I'm like, my God. Okay.
So Old Navy, Justice, and Bed Bath & Beyond.
Okay. So Atlanta Bright Company is still safe.
It stays
and all
there
of
as well as Joanne's.
Okay. Thank you. Justice was throwing me.
I'm sorry.
I forgot all about
They moved
them.
at the same time with Old Navy.
Anyone else?
Debbie, real quick. Okay, well, so initially there was some talk about there being restaurant pads added in front of where the movie theater is going. Is that still the plan?
Our plan is to try to attract those, so that is still in the plan. So again, we need to attract those restaurants before that can actually happen. But our plan is to be able to attract restaurants to that back side.
Oh, so it'll be on the back
No,
side.
where that is, where the theater is. I call it the back, but where the theater is, that was where all the restaurant pads were. Now, other pads would be phase 2. There's phase 1, which is there's restaurants where the movie theater was, and you saw the renderings of the restaurants out there. Phase 2 would be trying to fill in the open space that is in the rest of the parking lot areas. That's phase 2. We haven't started on that piece.
You answered my question, but phase 2 is a little more complicated because it involves some rather complicated infrastructure issues with sewer and drainage and so forth. So,
as well as the multiple owners.
Yeah.
Again.
That's not going to be as easy.
That's going to be expensive.
None of it is easy. But
none of it's cheap.
No.
Redevelopment is never cheap.
And the other thing I just want to say is that, you know, these are long-term goals, short and long-term goals on the back of it. And just, you know, these are certainly not set in concrete. And, you know, we welcome any kind of input you have, or if you don't like the direction we're taking. This is a partnership, so, you know, if you need to see us at any time, we don't have to wait for a quarterly meeting for sure. And just, you know, take a look at this and make sure you know that what direction we're going in. So.
And again, those came from our retreat that we had and the goals that we had set there. But we'll do another retreat and we'll align those with City Council goals as they go through their strategic planning as well.
Anyone else?
Jordan, did you have some?
I know this is going off Councilmember's point is about the entertainment district. So are we looking to do that more in phase 1, or do I have to wait till phase 2?
I don't think we have to wait till phase 2. I think we have to be able to have the synergy there to be able to do it.
But I think with the restaurants and obviously the other options to be able to come into partnership to create that board would be more in phase 1 I would like to see. But
I'm all about that.
Thank you.
So I'm kind of hoping that this announcement from the theaters is going to spark Sullivan Hays. I was very excited when we got Sullivan Hays on, but they haven't really shown me much. I'm sorry, this is my personal opinion. So I'm hoping that they're inspired to start really getting some good tenants in there now.
By lighting the fire.
Thank you.
It's hard to bring them in.
Of course it is, but
I wouldn't want to sign a lease without it
I think this well, I know this has already. They've been waiting patiently too. I mean, they've been waiting just like we have been because their hands have been tied until we were able to make this announcement and the leases were signed. So we will be busy. I see
big things now. So. Okay. Anyone else? No. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. It's a good report. And we have plenty to say to Nura in the next part of our meeting tonight. So maybe I. So we are adjourned from our study session. Thank you very much. Oh no, we're going to stay in here for executive.
Right, but I just wanted to say something. Moving into executive session. The caramel one, kettle corn. I got some from Costco.
Can we take just a 5-minute break, Brandon? Is that okay?
Mayor Dodge, we have to wait until 7:30.
Oh. Okay. We have to wait till 7:30 because that's what.
It said
it says or as soon thereafter, and that means 7:30 or after.
Okay. So we're adjourned till 7:30.
We have to wait because it says or as soon thereafter, not earlier.
Got it. I'm sorry. Okay. We really are adjourned from the study session.